All right, man. So thank you for joining me here today, Stacy. So for those that are listening in, if you could briefly describe your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name is Stacy. From Eastern Nebraska. Just I do some row cropping. Um, I got a family of a wife and three kids, and it's basically what we do. We run some detasseling crew stuff like that. So just a couple of side family businesses besides that. Kind of
Awesome.
what we do.
And so you guys have been now like legacy farmer for year two. So we're focused this year a lot on the financial side of things and really diving into farmer metrics. So if you could explain, like, I want to ask you before like coming into legacy farmer, what was really not working for you, like in life and or business, you know?
Well, I'd say the main part is the confusion. There was lots of confusion on just what's going on. You look at numbers one way and they look, all positive, and then you flip it over, and then an hour later it looks like you're just losing a bunch of money out the tail.
Yeah.
So, and you don't know which one to believe. One day you're happy, next day you're depressed because it looks doom and gloom. So, and then with all the numbers, they're in a big bowl, and then you try to sort them out. And even when you kind of sort them out, you're still not sure what to do with them and what they mean. So that's probably the biggest confusion I had. And then if I was confused there, then I'm probably unsure if I'm even going in the right direction. So that's probably the main points there.
Did it did it just feel like you were stuck kind of just like on an island where you knew there were some decisions that you had to be made, but didn't have you know, a system or a guidance to feel like you could be the one to make the decisions or even know what kind of decisions to make. And it just kind of felt like you were just kind of stuck, kind of like stuck on an island.
Well, sure. Yeah, I was just kind of stuck. And it's like, sure, if you're like on an island, it's like you went around several times and you need to make a plan to get out of there. I got to make a plan to get off the island, but you don't know what to do. So all you do is just go around one more time, and then hope everything's going to be okay. But ultimately, no. Well, ultimately, you don't know much. So, and that's the problem. So, yep. So that is, yeah, kind of how it felt.
So I want to talk a little bit about, farmer metrics and what we're trying to build here to help our members, to help you guys truly understand your financial position. Do you feel like that either through education or through school or through your bank that you've been taught how to look at your numbers and how to track them so that you can make good business decisions?
Um, no, I wouldn't say a school or a bank taught me any of that part. Um, they really just kind of say put some stuff together and hand it to me, and I'll see what I think. And really don't think they hardly understood. Once they looked through the numbers, whether they thought it looked good, great, or okay, they didn't really tell me much about it. And I'm not sure that they really understood either. They just rolled with it, and then that would happen year after year. And I just blindly just give them numbers that thought maybe were accurate. Some of them I just made up because I didn't even know where to get the right number anyways.
Yeah.
And it just year after year after year just seems like it kind of wear you down after a while.
Do you feel like you almost left more confused or felt more confused about your position than, you know, after going into the bank, kind of explaining your position? Did you truly feel though that you had a good understanding about what the bank was looking at?
No, I didn't know what the bank was looking at. I just, yeah, I really had no idea. I just was looking for the okay and sign this papers. And you know what? We'll see if we survive the next year. And I don't know if they're going to be like, hey, looks good, or hey, look, like we're closing shop here. So I had no idea what the projection was looking to be in 5 years or so.
What kind of uncertainty did that give you as a producer? Because you've already got market prices you're dealing with. You got, all these variables that you have no control of. But at the same time, you've got to produce a crop and make money. But without having a system to track it throughout the year, it feel like it just added to the uncertainty as a producer?
Yeah, because I would try to figure out a farm, and I would look at if I grow this yield and I can sell for this price, and then but I didn't understand my bank numbers. So sometimes might look at a field and it looks like I'm going to make good money, but I don't put in the numbers from the bank. Not all the numbers get put in there, and all the interest numbers, payments numbers, all these other things, termed out loans, all those don't get put in there. And then once those put in there, all of a sudden this field that you're like, man, I'm making bank on here, all of a sudden the number turns red, and now you're, instead of like, I'm just going to keep doing this again because I'm killing it on this field. You realize, hey, I think I actually lost money on here the last couple of years, and that makes a big difference, because then you look at it and you go, okay, I got to change something. This portion of this field isn't working, but this one is. So either I got to change something or I got to get rid of it. But something's got to be different instead of just keep
Yeah.
going.
You finally get down or realize, because mentally you're in abundance, but when the reality and the truth is in the numbers, but we don't know the numbers, it's actually the truth in the numbers that leads a lot of guys to bankruptcy or failure, losing money, is because they are operating in that frame that they think they are in abundance when the reality is they are not, just because they haven't had any way to track their numbers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so maybe you got money on your operating line. And so you feel like you're in abundance, like I got 500,000, I'm like, I'm the king. Like I'll write this check and I'll buy this dinner. But in reality, maybe you got access to 500,000, but maybe you're actually negative 700,000. You don't even know it.
Don't even know it.
So yeah.
And
So you're in grave
what's going to
danger.
happen at the end of the year then?
Well, you hope your bank says go around one more time, but if you do go around one more time, now the difference is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, until someday the bank says, hey, look, let's find out the truth of your numbers, and they put it to the test, and then they sell all your stuff and see if it equals out your loan value. But nobody wants to get to that point. So, and usually it could probably be avoided much sooner. And quite frankly, some of the stuff you figure out, I might be able to do like half the work or 2/3 of the work and probably make more money. So
100%.
yeah.
So what's been the biggest thing that's changed for you now that you've gone through farmer metrics and have actually a system to help track your numbers and truly understand what the bank's looking at?
Well, I mean, the changes, I would guess, probably more mental clarity and the ability to know you set a direction, and that maybe you're actually going that direction, and then allowing the numbers, which changes, allowing the numbers to be accountable to where they go to and where they belong and which categories, so you have an understanding of um, how to get where you want to go.
No.
Kind of like if you got a car and you got gas, but you don't know which hole the gas goes into, it doesn't do you much good, unless once you can figure out, here, once you figure that part out, now you're eligible, or at least you're one step closer to moving forward.
Right.
So
100%.
yeah.
100%. So last thing I want to ask you. So you guys have you've been back in for year two. You guys have made some tremendous changes, figured out the blueprint for your finances moving forward, getting the direction that you want to go, and solving some of the problems that the bank overlooked that we're now able to solve to change the trajectory for the next 5 to 7 years. A lot of the members that come in, that they understand that this isn't just a quick fix. There's decisions that you can make, or some fixes that need to be made to the finances. But ultimately, our goal is to change that, 5 to 7 years from now, 20 years from now, because once you can figure out where your leaks are at inside your business, how to track that throughout the year so you can maximize the profits. Now we change the trajectory of the next, 5 to 7 years. So that's where a lot of the members are headed, and you guys are a prime example. Like Stacy, where you've been able, where you have been, where you're going, and what's going to be from here. There's a completely different path. So I want to ask you now, if you hadn't come into Legacy Farmer, or if you had not made the jump, or let's say somebody is ready to make the jump. Okay. They're listening to this. and they see some of the changes that you've made and understanding that the impact this is having not only on you, but your family, what would you say to somebody who is sitting on the fence and has not made the jump into legacy farmer yet?
Well, I suppose I probably want to ask them, like, what are you going to do? Just go around one more time, and do the same thing you did. And if you're searching or you're looking, that probably means you got a problem somewhere, So you become aware you got a problem. Now, what are you going to do about it? Just nothing, the same thing. So I'd say that'd be my concern, is because, I searched for a little bit. I tried to do the numbers myself, never could get them together. And so I just did the circle, but I knew there was a problem, even though the next year it was like cringeworthy to start the circle, because you're just like, like, I already did this.
Yeah.
So it's a huge advantage to be able to get around, some guys that, like you, Andy, that work with a lot of farmers. So you got a perspective of seeing numbers, and like Jace, you can see the numbers and you know how it should work on a farm or a business, how those numbers should look and work. So it makes a huge difference, because I just see my numbers, and I don't, even if I know the numbers, I still don't have the perspective to know if they're working in the right way. So that's really helpful. And so I guess I'd ask them, what else are you going to do? If you had a solution, you probably would have already applied it and you've been working towards it. And since you're looking, you probably don't have a solution yet, but you just know there's a problem that needs fixed. Your boat's leaking, and your little tin can isn't going to move the water out fast enough. Eventually, that you're buying time.
So what's going to happen to these guys that aren't willing to make a decision or aren't willing to do something different?
Well, I don't know. Probably hard to say. If they keep looking, if they find anything, it's not real likely. But what's going to happen? It's hard to say, because all the markets are all over the board. But they're probably going to go around, and if they're moving in the wrong direction, they're most likely going to keep moving in the wrong direction, just like the compound effect or the slight edge. It seems slow. Eventually, when that exponential curve comes, you're either going the wrong way faster and faster, or the right way faster and faster. So it's a good chance, these guys might head downhill, eventually crash, crash and burn. It's and that's probably where I could easily been heading, just keep mixing the debt up until the bank says, "Hey, look, we're crashing your ride here, buddy. You're out of control."
Yeah, these guys are just, one, they're going to feel lost, not have any direction. But unfortunately, without knowing the numbers, and that's, the numbers are related to the truth. It's related to a story. The numbers tell a story. We're on whether it's our total borrowing power, our total bank safety net, what the bank has, as collateral. Those numbers tell a story. Now, we can, as farmers, we manipulate that story by, one, like avoiding it at all costs. So when you avoid the story, let's say your position is tightening up and you choose not to look at the numbers. Okay, you're telling yourself a story that you are in a good financial position, when the truth is the story that the numbers are telling actually mean that things are going backwards. But because of the inability for you to understand why, or even knowing where to even start, a lot of farmers, you and I both know, we just don't take any action, or we get caught up in the emotions. And that's where, when we do have good prices like we do right now, we're going out and we're buying machinery, equipment, because the stress of the financial side of the operation is so heavy for a lot of these guys, that the moment there is an option to escape, right, or spend some of that, they're gonna do it, because they want the joy and the fulfillment. Completely get that. The problem is, though, is that as farming has evolved over the years, now it's more volatile. And as a person gains more assets on their balance sheet, that's actually more risk. Just because we have more, another 2 million of assets or 3 million of assets that we've picked up, we're at higher risk because we're borrowing against that money to buy our assets now, right? So we have the debt that's also getting added to it. So a lot of guys are just going to feel stuck and not know where to do, and unfortunately make a lot of bad decisions. And a couple of those decisions could end up ultimately putting them out of business or having to liquidate. And that's just a position that you don't want to get into. We don't have to.
Right, right. And I think it could also be, put those guys in a bad position, pass their farm down to their kids eventually when they get to that point, because they might be in a bad position with debt, but maybe they're still floating it with borrowing against their long-term assets. But to pass that down to their kids, they'd have to pass on all that debt and all that stuff too, because it's all tied together. And so they're not really in a position to pass it down. So they could just ride it out all the way to their 60, 70, 80. By the time they do pass it down, their kids are 50, and it's just, it's happening too late.
One, how many kids are coming back to the operation after college with the expectation that they are going to take this over one day?
Yep. I think it's going to take it. Yeah, most of them are. Yeah, but it's not. The transition isn't happening because there's something hanging it up. So,
and it's that generation that they don't truly even understand their financial position because they can't. There's no way they can give up any of their reins. They've got to make a living. They've got to, they've got to somehow survive. But when the kids come in and let's say dad makes a couple bad mistakes, then the farm goes into a tight position. What is the kid supposed to do?
Sure, because they don't have the cash flow. Yeah, they don't have the cash flow to support two families because they haven't been focused on keeping the cash flow high. They've probably been selling out their cash flow to try to put in their asset bucket or something.
Yeah,
maybe to avoid taxes. But essentially, they can't pay their kid, who was probably their best hired employee, to help run the farm. They don't have any money to pay them.
Well, and now literally the operation can't even run without the kid being there. So now think of the stress and the almost the guilt from the kid who's there, who now has a decision to either one, walk away and leave dad hanging, or to stick with it and hopefully things are gonna move around. Now this is the position they're being put in. Now, this is why this is so critical here, is because the person running the operation has to know these numbers, has to have a game plan in place. Kids coming back, that's why right now that might not be the best option for them. Literally, if they don't know that this is going to be sustainable, or if that they don't have the operator who is tracking these kind of things to minimize as much risk as possible, but not to get them over leveraged. And so either that's where we talk about having, the kid go off and either start their own business and teach them how to track their own numbers so that they don't get into a position like a lot of kids get into and spend 30, 40 years and then have to walk away from it because dad lost it.
Yep.
It's a tough position, but again, it's you're coming back to the farm, you're risking it all. There's some decisions that you can make though, and conversations that need to be had in place before that happens. So you've got a game plan in place here. So we're not just operating blindly. Like this is one of the key things here as kids are moving back and looking for a game plan. Needs to be some strategy there.
Sure. Because they don't have any idea what to do,
No idea. Their hands are
tied. The same old, but the same old and the same old is producing less and less farmers out of the farm community. As time goes on, the numbers dropping off. So that's just going to continue unless things kind of change.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Stacy, thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today, man. I truly appreciate it.